1.5 miles to the exit. I may not have the visual cues from the GPS, but at least it gives me a couple heads up before any turn. I like that. Nice riding with you, dude. Only in California. The backups on the freeway seem to stem from backups on all the exit ramps getting onto the surface streets. Because it goes in spurts. To be places like this, after a big exit where there's nothing, but beyond that, it's just almost parking lot. Orlando gets the same way around Disney with everybody exiting to the theme parks. Okay, let's see if this is adjustable. Without tools, I should say. And it is not. Looks like it's on a slider. It's definitely not electric. It looks like you have to just reposition it from here to here. So it looks like a 2-position screen, but you need tools to do it. Well, that's a bummer. Yeah, that's definitely it. 2 bolts, 3 holes. So it stays where it is. That's alright. We're not going to go any faster than we were on that freeway, so I don't need it up, but I wanted to see what the effect would be anyway. Back in the road. We're going to go here through Malibu and then go up 27. So, ergonomics. Talked about the bars themselves. Width is very good, very neutral, not too wide, not too narrow. Pretty good height for me. I've got a very slight forward lean on the bike. It's not a straight back experience, but definitely not anything like a sporty experience. Not even like a sport touring. It's just a slight cant. And it's more so with the angle of the seat cushion itself. It's not entirely flat. So it just gives you that natural position with your hips. Pegs are in a good spot. They are a little rearward. They're in between my knees and my hips, but more towards my hips. Actual height is very good for me. Shifter's a little close. I do have to tip my ankle down a little farther than I like to upshift, just because the shifter itself is close to the peg. Brake is in the perfect position. Just slide my foot forward and I hit it. Very smooth engine. Hardly have any vibration. Got a little bit, and it's all over the place. I've got a little bit in the frame, the seat, the bars, but it's completely manageable and natural feeling. Just kind of letting you know that it's running. It's not a vibration. I don't have any actual high frequency vibration coming through the bars at any RPM. So very good harmonics there. The grips themselves are comfortable. Pretty standard, fairly firm rubber. That's what I like. I like to feel the road. I like to feel the bars. I wear very thin padded gloves. I've had some that are on the thicker side, and of course winter gloves are very thick, and to me those just dampen all the feeling out of the bars. And I like to feel the road. Levers are absolutely perfect, and that's a good lucky thing because there's no adjustability on the clutch, which is typical of low-priced bikes. We do have adjustability on the brake lever. I've got it in the 3 out of 5 position, and it's perfect, matches the clutch. So no worries there. Not a fan of non-adjustable levers, but when they fit me, I don't have a problem with it. Obviously, some people will though, and you'll be buying at least one new lever right away. Overall position on the bike isn't as tall as you would think. It's pretty standard. Yes, it looks very tall sitting there. However, it is a very compliant suspension, and once you actually sit on it with your weight, it compresses the suspension right away. I would guess a good 1.5 to 2 inches, at least with my weight. And we do have preload adjustability on the rear. Front, yep, we have it on the front as well, and it looks like at least partial adjustability. Maybe, I don't see any markings if one's compression and one's rebound damping, but we have adjustment screws. Those may just be the preload though. So at least preload. I can stand up here and have nothing underneath me. I mean, it soaks up all the available room. I'm still contacting the seat, but sitting down, got a nice bend in my legs, totally flat-footed. So if you're tall, if you're short, this is probably going to work for you. Just has a lot of suspension travel. Controls are as basic as they get. Again, nothing unusual for this class of bike. Start, stop, hazard, high beam, low beam, horn, turn signals. That's it. Nothing fancy, nothing real modern. Same controls as you've seen for decades on bikes. Dash is very easy to read. Now I'm looking through a very dark visor right now. I use the transitions and it is full on dark in this sun. No problem reading it here in all conditions. Shade to direct sun. It's right over us right now. Now you notice that it looks amber, and that's not the gauge itself. It's the whole thing. The whole gauge cluster is behind an amber tinted plastic. It's very strange. I haven't seen that. It reminds me of like old digital watches from the 80s. It tints everything, even the dummy lights. It does make it fairly dark. However, it's still high contrast enough that it's easy to read, so I don't have a problem with it. All the markings and numbers are large, very easy to read at a glance, so they work. You've got a nice big digital speedo and a nice high refresh rate bar tachometer. No complaints whatsoever. You got a fuel gauge on the left, a clock, an odometer, and that's it. We do have a basic trip computer function here. Trip 1 and 2. Average fuel mileage, we're getting 75 to the gallon, so very good. Ow. Rock just hit me in the knuckle. And not sure what that is right now. And I just missed my turn. Let's flip around. Very nice low speed handling. Rides and feels like a bicycle. That was a horrible U-turn, but I was feeling out the clutch and brake there for the first time. First U-turn. Very easy to balance. Feels lighter than it is. I mean, it's not a super light bike. Anything in the 400s I'm not going to call super light, but you don't feel the thing at all. Luckily, this one has a nice tight throttle tube. You get the normal side-to-side play. That's always going to be there. It's mechanical slop just from the mechanism, but it doesn't have the actual tube slop that the Goldwing had, so it feels very good to actually use. So engine performance, not bad. I mean, obviously it's not going to win any drag races, but it's very smooth. I want to see what kind of power it has here through its RPM range. First gear winds out about 30, 55 per second. It's not peaky, it's very linear. Pretty much what you have once you start to get on it and roll on, you've got until redline. So you can just shift it as needed. Yeah, very flat. Sometimes you'll want to shift early on a bike because it peters out during the top 20% or so, but this definitely doesn't do that. But there's also no great advantage to wind it out. Once you get under 5,000, you can feel a thump. Above that, it feels very smooth, more like a small 4-cylinder. I guess the tires are scrubbed in enough where I don't need to totally baby it anymore. So let's check out passing power. 45 miles an hour in 6th gear. Decent. I mean, it's got a nice linear roll on. Brakes are not great. I mean, they're seated by now, certainly. However, don't expect anything like sport bike performance. It's enough where I would definitely be swapping the pads, putting on some sintered pads for a better bite, at least on the front. Even the rear feels a little weak. I'd probably do the same to it. Usually on a rear, even if the front is weak, the rear is good enough, but I would want more on both on this.